How to process emotions. Like trauma and anxiety, emotions have a unique way of shaping our lives. They color our daily experiences, influence our relationships, and even shape our identity. But what happens when certain emotions, particularly those associated with trauma and anxiety, take hold of us in ways we don't fully understand? These complex emotions can be difficult to process, often leaving us feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or paralyzed. Understanding and addressing them head-on is critical to reclaiming peace and balance in our lives. In this video, we'll take a comprehensive look at how to process trauma and anxiety, not just through coping mechanisms, but by engaging deeply with these emotions, finding the courage to confront them, and ultimately working toward healing. The deep roots of trauma and anxiety. Trauma and anxiety are closely related but often arise from different experiences. Trauma can be thought of as a psychological and emotional response to a distressing event or series of events that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope. These events can range from obvious and acute instances like accidents, abuse, or natural disasters, to more subtle, chronic experiences such as emotional neglect or living in a toxic environment. Trauma leaves behind a residue, one that imprints itself on our minds, bodies, and even our nervous system. Anxiety, on the other hand, is more like an ongoing state of heightened awareness and concern, often triggered by stressors that may or may not be directly connected to past trauma. Anxiety can come in waves or persist indefinitely, showing up as a sense of unease, dread, or even panic. It's your mind's way of preparing you for perceived threats, even when no real danger exists. Have you ever wondered why certain experiences leave you feeling stuck long after they've passed? Or why do you seem to carry that nagging sense of unease in situations where others seem calm? Perhaps your body and mind are trying to tell you something. What stories do your emotions hold? How trauma affects the brain and body. Trauma doesn't just affect how we feel. It fundamentally alters the way our brain processes information. When we experience something traumatic, our brain's defense mechanism kicks in, activating the amygdala, the part responsible for fear and emotion, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and reasoning, takes a backseat. This can leave us feeling as though we are constantly in survival mode, primed to respond to danger even when none is present. This heightened state of alert can leave lingering effects, such as hypervigilance, nightmares, and flashbacks. For some, trauma may lead to a phenomenon known as dissociation, a feeling of disconnection from one's own thoughts, feelings, or body. This can feel like living in a constant state of numbness, or like you're watching yourself from outside your body. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever felt like you were merely existing rather than fully living? Perhaps this is your mind's way of coping with an experience too painful to confront all at once. Physically, trauma and anxiety can manifest in a variety of symptoms: muscle tension, headaches, digestive issues, and even chronic conditions like fibromyalgia or heart disease. Our bodies store emotional pain in ways we often don't recognize. Trauma can lead to cycles of exhaustion because our nervous system remains perpetually activated. The body, which carries the emotional weight of the trauma, may feel heavy, stiff, or fatigued. How often do you find yourself feeling physically exhausted, even if you haven't done much? Could it be that your body is still carrying the weight of past emotional pain? The role of triggers in emotional processing. One of the key challenges in dealing with trauma and anxiety is the presence of emotional triggers. These triggers can be anything: a sight, sound, smell, or situation that suddenly brings past trauma rushing to the surface. Often, these moments seem random, catching us off guard. Perhaps you've been driving and heard a song that suddenly filled you with dread, or maybe a casual remark from someone close to you stirred intense feelings of shame or fear. Triggers can send us spiraling back into the emotional state we were in when the trauma first occurred, flooding us with memories, sensations, or emotions we thought were long gone. They can be so subtle that you might not even realize you're being triggered until you notice your heart racing, your palms sweating, or your breath quickening. Do you know what your triggers are? Identifying them is the first step to regaining control over your emotional responses. How might your life change if you could anticipate these reactions instead of being overwhelmed by them? Facing the emotional storm. It's human nature to avoid pain. When confronted with uncomfortable emotions like those brought on by trauma and anxiety, our instinct is often to push them away, distract ourselves, or numb the pain with external substances or habits. But avoiding emotions doesn't make them disappear. Instead, it buries them deeper, allowing them to fester and grow more powerful over time. Learning to sit with your emotions, even when they are difficult or overwhelming, is a crucial part of the healing process. This doesn't mean you have to relive the trauma, but it does mean acknowledging and allowing your feelings to surface. Have you ever avoided a difficult feeling only to have it return even stronger later on? What would happen if you allowed yourself to feel these emotions, just for a moment, without trying to push them away? Could you open up space for healing? Practicing emotional awareness can be uncomfortable at first. Emotions may come up in unexpected ways, through sudden tears, intense anger, or waves of sadness. The key is to allow yourself to experience these feelings without judgment. By sitting with your emotions, you take the first steps toward processing them, moving through them instead of being trapped by them. The power of storytelling. Expressing what hurts. Sometimes, emotions are too large to sit alone. This is where the power of storytelling and expression comes into play. When we put our experiences into words, we give them structure and form, which can help us make sense of our emotions. It can be as simple as writing in a journal, talking to a friend, or sharing with a therapist. The act of telling your story externalizes your feelings, making them feel less overwhelming and more manageable. Sharing your story with someone who listens without judgment can be an especially powerful experience. It allows you to feel seen, heard, and validated. For many people, trauma is compounded by a sense of isolation. Expressing what you've been through can break through that isolation, offering connection and understanding. Have you ever felt like no one could truly understand your pain? What might happen if you allowed someone in? Could speaking your truth bring you closer to healing? Building mindfulness and compassion. Mindfulness is a practice that encourages us to be present in the moment, to observe our emotions as they arise without judgment, and to cultivate acceptance. When we become mindful of our feelings, we create space to explore them without being swept away. This can be incredibly beneficial for those grappling with trauma and anxiety. Instead of reacting immediately to emotional triggers, mindfulness teaches us to take a pause, observe what's happening internally, and respond with calm and intention. When was the last time you sat with your emotions without trying to change or judge them? What might happen if you approached your feelings with curiosity rather than resistance? Mindfulness is often paired with self-compassion, the practice of treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer to a close friend. When dealing with trauma and anxiety, it's easy to become self-critical, thinking that you should be over it by now, or that you're too sensitive. But healing takes time, and there is no set timeline for processing pain. Can you offer yourself kindness today? If a close friend were going through what you're experiencing, how would you comfort them? Could you extend that same compassion to yourself? The importance of seeking support. No one should have to walk the path of healing alone. While there is immense value in self-reflection and personal exploration, seeking support from others is often a crucial part of the process. Professional help, such as therapy or counseling, can provide invaluable guidance. Therapists trained in trauma recovery can help you navigate your emotions safely and provide tools for managing triggers and anxiety. But support doesn't only have to come from professionals. Sometimes, friends or loved ones can offer a listening ear and a comforting presence. It's not about finding someone who will fix your pain, but someone who will sit with you in it, providing companionship and understanding. Who in your life can you turn to for support? If you don't feel like you have someone right now, how might you begin to build that support system? Walking the path toward healing. Healing from trauma and anxiety is not a straightforward or quick process. It's a journey, one that involves ups and downs, breakthroughs and setbacks. There will be moments of deep sadness, intense fear, and perhaps even anger. But there will also be moments of peace, growth, and self-discovery. Processing these emotions is about reclaiming your life, piece by piece. It's about learning to live fully again, not in spite of your experiences, but alongside them. The goal isn't to forget what happened, but to integrate those experiences into your story in a way that allows you to move forward, lighter, and more free. What step will you take today toward your healing? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.